what's it going to take for Americans to see that Republicans are utterly cynical about voter fraud? We're getting case after case after case of Republicans. There was just two guys down in the Villages down in Florida, the largest retirement community in the United States, who got busted for voting twice for Donald Trump. I mean, it's like every week that goes by, there's a new story about a Republican who has committed voter fraud. It's never Democrats, right? The two Democrats that they caught, two black women that they caught and they charged with voter fraud, one in Texas, the other, I don't recall which state it was, but, you know, I mean, I think it was Ohio, literally arresting them, hitting, you know, high bail, facing years in prison. And in both cases, they actually hadn't voted. They had just simply tried to register to vote or tried to vote, and you know, the person at the election place said, well, here's a provisional ballot, and we'll check it out. And boom, they're in jail. I mean, they were upfront about the fact that they were both, you know, felons who were out of jail, and just didn't know, you know, which it was. But, you know, we've got all these Republicans who I think, you know, basically Trump and the GOP have just basically promoted this. Hey, you know, anybody can vote as many times as they want in America. This is the Democrats' new scheme, so you should do it too, is essentially what they seem to be saying. And now you've got the guy who was number 2 to the president, or his, you know, his chief of staff, the guy who ran the White House for the president, Mark Meadows, the former head of the Tea Party caucus, I think they call it the Freedom Caucus now, in the U.S. House of Representatives, registered to vote at a trailer in the woods in North Carolina. He was representing North Carolina in the U.S. House of Representatives. And he never lived there. It was like a trailer that, you know, that he was using for storing old papers and stuff. And he's registered to vote there when he lives in Virginia, and he's been voting in Virginia. But he's still registered to vote in North Carolina. Claire McCaskill, the former Democratic senator from Missouri, was on MSNBC yesterday, and she said, put him in jail. Prosecute him and put him in jail. The Attorney General for North Carolina is one of those states that, you know, would be blue if it weren't for gerrymandering. Right, the governor, the Secretary of State, I believe, the Attorney General are all Democrats. And the Democratic Attorney General, Josh Stein, opened this probe into Mark Meadows about a month ago. And guess what? The guy is registered to vote in a trailer that he's never lived in, never even stepped foot in, as far as anybody can tell, much less lived in it. I'm seeing a level of cynicism in the GOP and among their promoters in the media that I frankly don't recall having seen before in America. I've been around a long time. And, you know, I remember cynical times in this country. I remember, you know, cynicism around the war in Vietnam. I remember cynicism around 9/11 and Bush's, you know, rush to war with Iraq and lying us into that war in Iraq. You know, I recall these things. But there was never a call to action attached to them that would ultimately lead to violence. I mean, 5 people died on January 6th, let's not forget. Or, you know, 7 or 8 people died as a result of January 6th. Several of them died in the days immediately following, including a police officer. That would lead to that violence, that would lead to violence, you know, the Kyle Rittenhouse kind of violence. You've got Marjorie Taylor Greene and others on the hard right pushing this whole, you know, Democrats are pedophiles who want to drink the blood of children in satanic rituals. You know, the 2022 version of the blood libel from Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Only now it's a little more ecumenical. It's not just being directed against Jews. It's being directed against Democrats broadly. And what happened when that blood libel was directed against Jews? There was a Holocaust, and Jews were killed. I mean, this is troubling stuff. That they're willing to give people a pass on criminal activity, like trying to bring down the government, at the same time that they're trying to criminalize people who are just, going about their lives and supporting the wrong political party. And Mark Meadows certainly was a cheerleader for that, and continues to be, and it troubles me. So anyway, are you getting a sense that it's dangerous to be walking around these days, or walking around, particularly as a Democrat? How different do you think your life would be if you had a Biden-Harris bumper sticker on your car, for example?